Okay, this is an interview regarding Knox as an artist, and we'll be covering different points of his life and about his father, who was a pioneer aviator in Colombia and the United States. But this is specifically about Knox as an artist. So I'm going to give you question number 1, or the topic here. You are a formidable presence in the art world. Since your first one-man show with the prestigious Egan Gallery in New York in the 50s, you are known as an artist's artist. Tell me about this.
Well, basically it was my studies about art, from going to the museums and singling out those painters, sculptors, whose work came out of art instead of like a mode depicting the times or whatever have you. Like a Picasso's work is not ever, none of the things ever time bound. There was a blue period and there was a Cubist period, and then a wide-ranging interlocking of just about anything he could do in the sculpture and painting. So you answer to certain things in relation to what the nature of art is. If you're not, in other words, the subject matter of Cézanne's work was art. And I learned that the painters, the sculptors, drawers, when it was referred to, their reference was always art, and the subject matter was basically art.
Right. Now, the question is that you've been known as an artist's artist. So what would make that distinction?
Well, for example, the painting of Guernica by Picasso, one of the great paintings ever done by man. And it came together after his looking at Rubens's painting depicting war. And he reversed the composition, but he used every element in the Rubens to make the Guernica. It's astonishing if you could see them together, the relationship of what Picasso was opened up to when he did the Guernica, only in relationship to the Rubens painting called War.
Okay, okay, so that you've been able to single out the great artists and what makes paintings work. But what would be the statement that you are an artist's artist? Why would someone say that about you?
Because absolutely my work comes from art. In other words, my study of art, going back into the cave paintings, cave drawings, primitive paintings, and then the extraordinary work of a Hieronymus Bosch or a Van Eyck, or the great #1 painter Titian, and what happened with his group relationship to Tintoretto and Veronese, part of his school, and how Cezanne related to the whole thing, pushed open by other painters that he was related to. I mean, his talk about Cezanne's talk about Chardin and what Manet brought back to art. Art was dead in the world, and Manet brought art back to art, and so out of Cezanne came Matisse and Picasso and de Kooning, and out of that lineage myself.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, your father, besides being one of the very first pioneer aviators in the United States and South America, was also a poet and painter. Did this have any influence in you becoming an artist?
Not really. I mean, for one's memory, earliest memory is of your father flying upside down over a cornfield about 20 feet above the ground and waving to me while I'm in my mother's arms. And I mean, at an early age, as a child growing up, it didn't mean anything to me that he was a pioneer aviator, the test pilot of Boeing, the person who introduced aviation to South America by flying the Andes, and opening your first airport, and having Mario San Domingo as a friend, and one of his, he flew as a co-pilot, not as a co-pilot, sorry, flew as a passenger over the mountains of South America with my father, and became the head of, Mario San Domingo became the head of Avianca.
Yeah, he created Avianca Airlines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and your father was a visionary. He went to South America to develop aviation as stated on his passport. His quest was pure and strong against many odds. In your own quest as an artist and teacher, what have been the odds that you have overcome?
Well, I mean, simply to overcome whatever the uninspected aspects of the art world are presented with. I mean, the endless jargon, the endless notions of a new thing in art that, if it is seen and shown, is not accurate because you can't see the new, because it is the new. In other words, you can present the new in all its aspects in any size, and it can be slurred over by observers. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It means that that's the way it is. So only by really being involved with the nature of art. I mean, what happened to Matisse when he saw Cezanne? You know, suddenly a whole new world opened up to him, invisible to most everybody else. And Picasso the same.
Thank you. It has been said by one of the important American artists that he admired you because you remained pure. What did he mean?
Well, well, I can't really respond to that in a certain way, because I've taken from art what I work with all the time from years ago. Amazing. I opened a book that I had drawn in Nepal, and I was stunned to see that the drawings were art before anything else. I mean, it depicted aspects of Nepal, the mountains, some of the people. But the first beckoning was every mark of what I saw was distributed on the page by an incredible, beautiful relationship of lines and spaces and diagonals and circles and oblongs. And each form was derived from each one of those against one another, and the spaces in between, which according to Wang Gri, the spaces were defined as the spaces in between were as charged as the forms are defined. For example, if you look at a Michelangelo, the spaces in between are neuter. They're not charged. They don't do anything but illustrate a dimension and expressions by the body turning instead of expressions by all the surround in each part and each drip surrounds to give a total impression of what is viable to art, what can come out of art. And therefore becomes like art is the incredible medium that can be read in any language once the language is seen and understood.
Right, very good. You served in World War II and then took advantage of the special program called the GI Bill of Rights and enrolled at the Art Students League in Manhattan. Was this when you decided to have art as your profession?
I started with the notion of being involved with commercial art. And I got a hint that I was going to the museum all the time. And for example, early, everyone was talking about Cezanne, and I didn't quite get what Cezanne was about. And one day there was a lone show in a gallery at the Metropolitan Museum, and it was a show of impressionists, a post-impressionist show, and it showed this artist and this artist and this artist and this artist, and it had just rained, and it had stopped raining, and the boles of the tree were black, and between them people moved, and I came back to the group of thing, and it was the first time I saw a Cezanne, and after I saw that Cezanne, I went home, and all my art books were brand new, as if I had never seen it before.
Wow. Fantastic. Okay. You chose, well, you just kind of answered this just now, but the question is, you chose fine art over commercial art. So tell me why you decided that.
Well, commercial art was merely the rendering of whatever was known, and if it was anything other than that, it would be alien to it. In other words, if you saw Picasso's Madame, I forget the name of the painting right now, but it was a major breakthrough for Picasso. And he got the basic stuff from the bathers of Cézanne, and he put this large painting together, and nobody who's out of that understanding, so to speak, it's impossible to see it because it is so discordant with anything that they know. Most of Picasso's are like that. The only thing that maintains Picasso is the word of the fact that he is one of the great painters, and they see that, and that is advertised in all the museums, the books, like 50 books on Picasso.
Yes. Were you going to say something else there? Okay, great. So, your daughter Olivia has said that she feels very connected to the Colombian blood through your mother. Do you share this connection?
It's a strange thing to look at that. Because I can see a great rift. And of course I'd look at the religion. I love my mother very much, and as well my daughter. And it has never occurred to me to look at in the sense of a nationality, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I take what is presented to me as it is, and I usually don't think about it.
Right, okay. How did your mother view your art?
The astonishing thing about my mother is, for years I had my studio, and I was working in my studio, and one day she said she hadn't seen my work. She knew about the studio. She said, "Why don't you take me to your studio?" And I said, "Gladly." And I took her to my studio for the first time in years. I'm talking about years. And she sat in the studio, and it was so astonishing to me. She read what I was doing with an astonishing sense. So accurate was her reading. In other words, like the idea of a layman, so to speak, suddenly getting in there and saying, "Yeah, it looks like you did this over again," and it's very powerful. I mean, what she said was alarming and revealing to me. I was amazed.
Excellent. Wow. Okay. New York has been referred to as the concrete jungle, yet your home stood out in Manhattan and still does like a tropical garden because of your love of plants and exotic animals. Is this an extension of your home country, Colombia?
That goes into something else that is hardly a topic of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There's an aspect of my life that I look past, right? And it is I am one painter friend of mine, Will Barnett, who said, "Knox Martin, you're amazing. You are interested in everything," and it's true. So I'm interested in animals. I collected snakes. I collected spiders, jumbo spiders, and I drew them, and cats and dogs, and people and relationships. Relationships are amazing to me. It always connects to my art in various ways that are concealed until I see them.
Right. Okay. Your children, Olivia, Jonathan, and Alma, value the upbringing by you and your beautiful wife, Isa. Tell me about this.
Well, my wife and I, she married a kind of a in other words, the way to say it is she educated me. I came to realize so many things in her presence, and we had so much fun together. And I loved her very much, and it was returned. And what was the other part of the question?
That your children value the upbringing by you and Isa. So tell me about this.
Yeah. Well, I used to. Isa decided at one point that she would go back to work at what she was very capable of doing, and was pleased by the relationship of working for what she was praised at. Right? So I had a remarkable thing, and I had the children, and I would take them to the park or any kind of event, or take them out in any kind of storm, or introduce them to animals that I had. While they were here, I had a monkey, and I've had Yorkshire Terriers, and a Great Dane,
and the
spiders,
and the monitor lizard.
Centipedes, and a big monitor lizard. I came home from the studio one day, and a group of policemen with revolvers drawn, and my big monitor lizard was out on the wall of the building. And my daughter Olivia said, "Don't shoot my lizard."
Yep.
But the interaction between my children and I were astonishing.
Yep. Thank you. So, when did you decide to become an art instructor, and where did you begin teaching?
Well, I was invited by the faculty to come and teach at Yale University, the graduate class. And I didn't think art could be taught. So I went to the school and I questioned the instructors, and I questioned so many people, other instructors, etc., and nothing gave me the answer to teaching. And I talked to other students, tell me about the teaching, etc., etc. What had they learned? And I was very disappointed. I couldn't connect to that. And one day, I was going through my book of drawings of a Rembrandt. And in the book was a wash drawing in ink that was offered to him by a student of his, and he corrected it. And what you had was the student's angel comes in, and she says in a voice, "Oh, Mary, you're the Mother of God." And Mary turns and says, "Oh." And Rembrandt corrected it. He had this little flimsy angel that didn't do anything to the page at all, and he yanked and he made the angel 3 times bigger than the little angel, put the wings over this way and a bar of light over this way, and swelled the angel this way, and the podium he pulled this way, and the slash things in the window was darker, right, and the elements of the mother were darker, and Rembrandt's angel comes and says, "Whoa, Mary, you're the mother of God." And Mary says, "Oh." I mean, a vast difference, like a little tinkle against, overt, wonderful, big thing. And that angel that he puts in the sun connects with all the corners and sides and fills the whole, makes the page relate to each part and each corner and the bottom, the top in a certain way. And it creates a motion and music and a sound against a little squeak that was there before.
Great. And so then you've incorporated that method of teaching. You've incorporated that method of teaching to correct the work of an artist.
Yes, well, that's the way I learned that I could teach.
Yeah.
I looked at that and I said, "Oh, I can teach now. I know what to do."
Good. Okay. I've experienced, speaking to your students, that they adore you and cherish your teachings. And what is it that you have given them?
Well, I can say it briefly. As difficult as it was art. In other words, against all odds. In other words, to be involved with a facility and a faculty that hasn't got a clue as to what art is, and you're sitting there alone in the whole, well, alone in all of New York City, and you're talking about art. Well, everyone is art is suspect, and it doesn't do this, and so on and so forth. And the idea is bringing a big aluminum door and put a white sock on it, right, where people can come in and look at it and say, "Oh my God, this guy's broken through." Broken through to what? An aluminum door with a sock on it, as against a drawing that looks like nothing, where every aspect of a drawing that I do is related to every corner, and each curve explodes a straight against a thick, against a thin, against a dark, against a light, against the music of spaces in between. So one simple drawing, one drawing contains all of this, and it's invisible.
Okay. Alrighty. Regarding your father, who you are named after, he was a daring flyer. He returned to South America in 1919 after having been there in 1913. This is when Avianca was created with Mario Santo Domingo, and your father is credited with the very beginnings of Avianca. Tell me of your meeting in 1969 for the 50th anniversary of the flight they made together.
Well, I made that flight over the same territory in the same area. I had got my flying license when I was teaching at Yale University, and I had my flying license, but
Well, how was the meeting with Mario Santo Domingo at that time?
So we were making a flight over the same area that my father flew, and he wanted to join, and he had never been in a small aircraft for all of his life after my father's introduction, and he flew with me, and we dropped the mail at Colombia and flew back, and he put his arm on my shoulder after we landed and says, "You two are an ace." And we were very close.
Yep, great. And the 100th anniversary of aviation in Colombia is next year. So what does it mean to you to have your amazing father be celebrated at that time?
Well, as it should be. I think my brother Ernest instituted in the airport at Bogota a sort of a gallery of my father's flight. My father was an art student. He was going to an art school in Baltimore, Maryland, and he heard a funny noise. And he went outside and he saw one aircraft in the sky when maybe there were a dozen in the whole world. And he went to his uncle who was putting him through art school, and his uncle, he told his uncle, "That's what I want to do, I want to fly." Now he had done drawings of birds in flight, and he understood the tilt of the tail and the wings and like the ailerons and everything. He understood flying, so he was like a natural feeling for flying. So his uncle said, "Well, you promised to go to France and study art, and once you've completed it and you come back and you still want to do that, let's talk about it."
Right.
That was my Uncle William Knox.
Mm-hmm.
So my father went to Paris, and aviation just hit there at that time. It was blossoming all over, and he went and he learned to fly there, and was flying some of the aircraft, strangest looking aircraft. I have photographs of them in Paris. And when he came back after the year, he had worked on his art, but had worked on aviation more, and he came back and he told his uncle, who was sponsoring him, he said, "I want to fly," and his uncle bought him his first aircraft.
That's great. Well, that concludes my questions. Is there anything you want to add?
No, thank you for the questions. It covers a lot.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.